I never thought my husband would call me lazy at dinner, like it was a quiet judgment to be tucked between the salad and dessert. The words landed precise and small, and the house seemed to hold its breath around them, our son coloring at the far end of the table. The hum of the refrigerator, the old clock clicking. He said it like a fact. I felt the room tilt. I smiled because a tremor would have given him more to enjoy. Inside, memories sorted themselves into evidence. Nights I nursed fevers. Mornings I packed lunches in briefcases. The years I smoothed his suits and his ego. I had been the gravity of our home while his attention drifted to things he called opportunities. To be labeled lazy was less an insult than a disclosure. It revealed how small I had been allowed to appear in his story. For months I had been quietly collecting bank statements showing transfers I hadn't authorized. Emails were promises dissolved into invoices. A contractor's note proving the roof was never fixed. I made lists in the margins of my notebook, dates, names, a calendar of absences. I did not do it for spectacle. I did it because grief needed an organizer and because truth sometimes waits until someone is patient enough to assemble it. When I reached into my bag that night and placed a slim manila envelope between us, his laugh tried to make light of everything. Divorce papers, I said. He scoffed and accused me of drama. I let him speak until the edges of his words frayed. Then I read aloud facts that could not be folded away: transactions, timestamps, emails with explicit commitments. Facts have a way of aging out denial. He tried to turn our son into a wedge, to paint me as capricious in front of our child. I had prepared for that. I had written a parenting plan that honored our son's routines and named a mediator. I had recorded a conversation months before in which he admitted to lying about late nights and where he had been spending time. I recorded not to punish, but to preserve clarity, when memory risked being reshaped by charm. The meeting at the mediator's office was quiet and clinical. Evidence is not always dramatic. Its power is methodical. When the financial summary was laid out, the room changed temperature. Paper and numbers do not rush to forgive. They simply show what has been done. The shift was not theatrical. It was inevitable. People saw a pattern instead of a persona. That was the true reversal the moment his narrative could no longer swallow the facts. My sort of revenge was structural. I translated intimacy into documents so a neutral hand could read it. I did not humiliate him in public. I relied on law and ledger to do what anger could not: make a fair accounting. When the agreements were signed, I felt something settle inside me that was neither triumph nor bitterness, but a reserved, firm relief. There are kinds of courage that are patient and quiet. After the papers were filed and his boxes carried away, life returned in small, ordinary ways. I learned to rest without apology. I negotiated assets and secured a home where my son's paintings could dry on the windowsill. I paid off secret debts I had hidden out of shame and then enrolled him in the art classes he had been begging for. The practical work of care replenished something my husband had diminished, without intending to, my belief that I was entitled to time and softness. There were humiliations and unexpected strengths. Neighbors who brought soup. My mother who sat with me until the paperwork was done. The difficult truth I had to face was mine as well. I have forgiven too quickly. Accepted explanations that softened responsibility. The divorce forced a ledger where I could see not only what he had done, but what I had allowed. And that knowledge became a tool rather than a wound months later. At a school recital, we passed each other in the hallway. He looked smaller in ways that had nothing to do with stature. I offered him a smile that had been learned and rehearsed for myself. He mouthed something that might have been apology. I felt no need to catch it. There was a peace in the refusal to re-enter a story you left, because you knew your worth had been diluted. If you wonder whether serving those papers felt like vindication, the answer is nuanced. I felt relief in a reclaiming of agency. I felt dignity return in measured breaths, and in the small acts of care. I could finally perform without apology. The night he called me lazy remains part of my map, not because it defines me, but because it taught me to read the lines and choose differently. If you want to hear more stories like this, stay close. There's always another truth waiting. I chose myself, and that was a revolution.